We are coming live from Doola HQ in New York City with a weekly live Q&A on Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. And we are going to let folks trickle in for the live Q&A, and we're going to come in with a great question that came in. And for folks tuning in, you can also drop questions in the chat. We'll answer questions live too. Anything goes. I'm saying that now. We'll see if I regret saying that, but anything goes here. I'm going to pop up one of my favorite questions that came in. We're going to start off with this one. So I'm going to give folks about 15 more seconds. We'll say 30 more seconds. And the very first question I'm going to answer is, why is doula called doula? I haven't shared this answer publicly much. I did it recently about a week ago, and I wanted to dive into this. Then we had a bunch of other questions that came in around entity formation, around taxes. There's two certainties in life, death and taxes. So I'm not surprised that question came in. And then we got some questions around LLCs versus C Corps as well. So we'll dive in on all fronts there. Let's go 15 more seconds. And the very first question I'm going to answer again, please feel free to drop anything into the chat. I'll pull them up on the screen live in real time. Very first question. Why is doula called doula? So let me give a little run through on the history of the name doula. Believe it or not, we actually used to be called StartPack, StartPack.io. Now, there were a few issues with that name. The first issue was StartPack was too transactional. From day zero, we had this vision that we wouldn't just be a place where you start, although that was the goal, is, hey, it's this starter pack. You've probably seen those memes of the LA starter pack or New York starter pack, or I don't know, college guy starter pack, which has all the pictures of the very cliche things that person might have. So the goal was, hey, what if you had this starter pack of everything you need to actually get a business off the ground? So we were called StartPack.io. And that was the second issue, is the .io. I don't think this is a hot take. Folks can chime in if they think it is, but if you have anything but a .com, you're playing from behind. There's less trust. You're kind of putting up this wall or hurdle for someone to just think, hey, why don't you have the .com? The .com helps with trust. It helps with SEO benefits. Now, I will say, in this day and age, there could be strong benefits to having .ai as well. So we are in that day and age. I'll add the disclaimer. But the second issue is, hey, we had the .io. We didn't have the .com. So those are the two main issues. So we then went into a process of saying, okay, we know we didn't want something as transactional. We wanted something that wasn't just about starting, but something you could build a relationship with, build a brand around. And then the second thing is we didn't want a .com. So we enlisted the help of a design agency, and they were going to help with the rebrand, but they also said, hey, as part of this, we'll help with doing some research on potential names that you could rebrand to. So they did their research, and they came back with 20 names to choose from. And actually, I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to show the names. These are the actual names that we were choosing between before we actually decided to ultimately go with doula. So you'll see some of these names, and I think what's funny is when I see these names, I think, wow, our slogan now is let's doula it, but it very well could have been let's insert another one of these names here. So the agency came back, and here were the names that they came up with. Ready? Moment of truth. So here you go. You can see here that there were 20 names. I'll read them out loud. Set course, doula, business bound, aid, runner, first port, set foot, file crew, shoulder, grunt, slog, seam, beyond business, upright, limitless, splint with 2 L's, bunion, watcher, tape cut, and shield bolt. So with all those names, we then went through an exercise of thinking, okay, which one do we like? Now, all of these had potential .coms we could buy, so that box was checked. But then you can see from some of these names that we didn't want something that was too literal. So for example, in this list here, file crew was maybe a bit too literal, or, tape cut. You're cutting the tape. That was a little less literal, but we wanted something that was a little less literal, something we could build a brand around. Now, some of them were way too out there. An example of that was Bunyan. This came from the American folklore hero Paul Bunyan. I kid you not. So the idea was, hey, you're helping people start American businesses. Let's do something with the name Bunyan in it. Another was first port, like you're the first port of that first destination, maybe like the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, when folks were immigrating or coming to America. Ultimately, though, we chose doula. Here's why. We chose doula because we didn't want to say let's grunt it. So thank you, Maurice. I completely agree with you. There could have been a multiple, sometimes there's simulation theory. You might be in a simulation. There's another universe out there where we are called grunt, and we say let's grunt it. You grunted it when you started your business with doula, but that's not this universe or this simulation we're in. So here's why we chose doula. Number one, it was 5 letters, so something short. It was 2 syllables too. I've heard some psychology, someone can fact check me on this, that 2-syllable names are more memorable. It's why when you're naming a dog, some advice to actually, to name it with 2 syllables because it's easier for the dog to remember. So there's something around that 2-syllable names, easier to remember. It also had 2 O's, tech sounding kind of like Google, and it had the .com. Now, the final reason, but I'll be lying if I said this is why we chose it, is doula also has the word do in it. And if you come to our website today, something which we realized, and again, I'd be lying if I said this is what we were thinking back then, but this is where, hey, you can always connect the dots in hindsight, is we say doula is for doers. And we've actually had customers come to us and say, I want to work with you because the word do is in your title. And you have to be a doer to take a company off the ground to launch it. So that worked out for us. I'd be lying, though, again, if I said back then we saw the word do in there, but that's been another benefit of this is taking action. You can't wait around. The time will never be right. I think a harsh truth about life is some of the best ideas in the world are 6 feet underground. People die, they never take action. So we work with doers. Doula is for doers. That's something we can lean into. So with all that, it was a 5-letter .com, had 2 O's, tech sounding, and we could build a brand around it. Doula formation, doula taxes, doula bookkeeping. And I'll actually show you how this translates into the brand. You can see up here, do compliance, do taxes, do bookkeeping, do analytics, do it all with doula. There's this really cool do ethos we can have around it as well. So with all that, that's how we chose doula. Now, I'll also reveal this too. I don't know if we've revealed this publicly, but the question was, again, why is doula called doula? But I'll reveal it. We ended up paying, if anyone wants to take a guess, how much we paid for the domain. So it was a 5-letter, not full English word, right? This is a doula, and here's the last thing I'll actually share as part of the story. The agency chose doula, I haven't mentioned this here, because it was a play on the word doula. And that doula is someone who helps raise, nurture, grow a child. So they said, hey, there's this idiom, your business is your baby. People are starting businesses or they're onboarding businesses to your platform, and you're helping raise, nurture, and grow them. So you're kind of like a doula. Now, the truth is, candidly, I didn't know what a doula doula was. A lot of people don't. And we're just doula here. So again, what does doula stand for? To us, doula stands for taking action, launching or leveling up your business. We want to become synonymous with that. Obviously, there's the word do in it as well. And in terms of how much we paid, I don't know if anyone wants to take a guess. You can take a guess in your head now while you're listening. I'll give you 5 seconds to take your guess. Honor system only. Okay, we paid $10,000 for the domain. So you can comment if you think that's too much or a steal. I actually think 5-letter .coms that sound like English, even though they're not English, that it was a steal. I think it was one of the best purchases or investments we made there because, again, we can build a brand around this. Any new offering we launch, and the grand vision or goal, which isn't a secret too, is to turn doula into a verb. The same way you say, I want to Uber to that location, or I want to Airbnb my place. I want to doula my company, which means launch it or level up. That's the goal, is we become synonymous with that action of taking action and launching or leveling up your business. So in summary, if you tuned in halfway through the answer, the question was, why is doula called doula? I'll do a rapid summary here. We were called startpack.io. We didn't want the .io. We wanted the .com. We didn't want StartPack. It was too transactional. We worked with a naming agency. They came up with 20 names. Of those names, some of those names were way too literal. Some of those names were way too, not spiritual. They were way too out there, like Bunyan. And we lastly decided, hey, doula is a 5-letter .com. For $10,000, we can get the domain. I think it was a steal. So if you think we overpaid, you can comment. The $10K for doula.com, I'm happy with that. I see a couple comments coming in. Let's see. Red Energy says, great name, you stole it. I agree. I am a bit biased, of course, but I agree. And we have another comment here from Maurice. That was a steal. I agree. I think it was a steal. We have a comment here from Darkhan saying, why doula? Why not BZ? When I think about the name Bee, there's a company Beehive. So I think that you can build branding or name around that. I also don't know if this .com exists. Let's actually check it out. So for anyone out here who's actually thinking about potentially getting a name for their business, a cool tool you can use is instant domain search. So let's actually do a little search here. We'll test this out. So this is actually what we did at the time. Or at least the naming agency helped us with this, but you can go through and actually search for .coms here. Okay, hold on. bz.com is less than $14,000. So honestly, that's not a bad name. It's 5 letters. The only issue I have with this is how memorable it is. If you say it, can someone actually just phonetically spell it? So I think that's a cool thing about Doola too, is that yes, it's not a traditional English name, but if you say Doola, if someone phonetically hears that in a conversation and goes and tries to type it, they're probably going to do Doola. So that's my only concern with this name BZ is they might just do bz.com. But 14K for a 5 letter .com as well, not bad. So someone can go grab this domain right there. That's my recommendation for a cool tool you can use, instant domain search, to check out domains. So, Darkon, great question here. So let's actually switch in now. So please keep the questions coming. We had a bunch of questions that came in around tactically why doula, or some of the specifics around the nuts and bolts of LLC formation, bookkeeping, taxes, etc. So I'm going to actually answer this question first for everyone here. I got so frustrated when starting doula that I couldn't find a solid answer to should I do an LLC or a C corp. A lawyer will tell you 11 things that you shouldn't do. I just wanted the one answer. So I'm going to give you that answer. Before I give that answer here, this question from Darkon came in. I want to give live questions here. Why I need to open an LLC with you, not Busy. So Busy is another company in the space. There are lots of companies in the space. Now, the very first thing I'll say is I believe anyone serving entrepreneurs, kudos to them. A rising tide lifts all boats. So yeah, technically there's always competition. If you don't want competition, you should never start a company. You should just sit in your room and do nothing. The way I think about it though is think of a Venn diagram. There's always going to be overlap in the Venn diagram, but outside of the overlap is where you can build something special tailored for specific individuals or countries or specific types of industries. So Busy or another company aside, I can talk about doula specifically, what we view as differentiators and things that we can do and want to do better than anyone else. So the very first thing, and I'll actually just share my screen here, is we believe that there was this line I heard when we were starting that customers said a lot of companies, they will start your business and throw you to the wolves with a checklist of things to do. So we took an opposite approach of saying, hey, actually everything you'll need from start to scale is going to be here in-house. So that's another big thing. We do not outsource our taxes. We do not outsource our bookkeeping. We have CPAs and bookkeepers on our staff. Again, other companies might also have it in staff too. You can do a fact check there. So this isn't about Busy specifically, but I'm just saying within Doula, we specifically have these team members in-house. We invest in them. They're full-time members of our team. And the reason why we do this is because we just believe that if you're going to outsource something, you're not going to get the same level of care, attention to detail, and the way everything can tie together, right? We have access to the data. We have access to the tooling, the training. The same team is understanding where we're going in the next 9 months, let alone the next 3 years or 10 years. So you have a better experience overall. We can build a better experience. We can bring down costs, which means passing along cost savings to customers and offer a better product. So that's the first thing, bookkeeping, taxes in-house. The second thing is we are very much building towards not just a formation offering, but this business in a box. So if you're an e-commerce seller, we actually have e-commerce analytics, which directly integrate with Shopify, Amazon, and you can do advanced analytics such as calculating your return on ad spend, tracking inventory. The goal here is that this isn't, again, just a way to start a business, but it's a way you can scale too. The last thing I'll say, and again, this is outside of Busy, but it's with any company in the space, there's this myth, and I'll say it's a myth, of a $0 LLC. There are companies that'll say, hey, I can form your LLC for $0. I challenge you to actually go and sum up the total of everything you will need. And to get an LLC, you actually also need the EIN, you need a registered agent so that you can get a business bank account. We charge all of that for $297. Again, other companies might be cheaper, but our goal is not to compete on price. We want to compete on value. So I would just challenge you, you don't just need an LLC, you also need the EIN, you need your operating agreement, you need your registered agent too. Check all of that out before you make your final decision on price. We charge $297 plus state fees, one price. We want to keep it simple. We can help with the taxes and the bookkeeping too. The last thing I'll say here too, if anyone does have questions, one other thing which I really disliked about this space is that it's hard to just get a solid answer. You can't talk to a human. Don't get me wrong. AI is fantastic. There's ways we're going to apply AI and are applying AI, but I think you should talk to a human if you want to talk to a human. So anyone here, actually anyone, you can go to our website, but I'll just make this super simple for folks. Anyone there's QR code on the top left or right here. We offer free demos with actual humans. You can test this out. You'll get on a call. There's an actual human there. I promise you, it's not an AI avatar. You can actually talk to a human on our team and answer or ask questions, get them answered in real time, literally on a call. And we think that's important because we put out a lot of content. We know the information's out there, but your business is your baby. You want to make sure you get it right. And we want to give you at least the opportunity to have that conversation with someone. Okay, we got a comment here from Stefan. Best asset to invest. I don't know if this is a question or if this is a comment on starting a business is an asset which you're investing in yourself, or this is actually a question of, hey, what asset should I invest in? I'd say invest in yourself. That's my cheesy cliche answer, but I'll answer that here too. Okay, cool. So next up, please keep the questions coming, but I want to go back to a couple other questions that came in beforehand, and I'm going to pop these on the screen. I did mention or allude to the question which I couldn't find a solid answer to, which I actually want to just answer now. I'm going to give the definitive answer of should you file an LLC or a C Corp. And again, I got frustrated because there's so many things out there, like lawyers. Again, I think lawyers are good. They serve a purpose, but I didn't want 11 things that I shouldn't do. I wanted the one thing I should do. So let me actually answer right here. LLC versus C Corp, what's the difference? Which one should I form? Ready? Let's make this simple. If you are raising U.S. venture capital, form a C Corp. Simple as that. And the reason why is because U.S. investors will require a Delaware C Corp. Partly because it's easier to make the investment, but also the C Corp tactically makes it easier to administer shares, to administer equity. The tax implications too mean that as the company raises rounds, investors and other folks aren't paying taxes as they go. So the C Corp gives you the ability to collect investment, give equity, and it's required by investors. That's the simplest answer there. Delaware C Corp if you're raising venture capital. If you are not raising venture capital, LLC. 99.999% of the time. So I'm keeping it very simple, but the reason why is the LLC is easier to maintain. It's more flexible. You have tax flexibility too. You could have it elect to be taxed as a C Corp, or you could do an S Corp election. And with the LLC, you're also going to get liability protection. You'll get the EIN, so you can get a business bank account. You can have multiple owners too. You get the social proof, you get the credibility as well. And when I say social proof or credibility, you get to go from being a freelancer to being an LLC. All I did here was I moved to the left and I formed an LLC, but that makes a huge difference where a business working with you doesn't view you as an individual. You're now a business. It holds different weight. You can put that on your website. So to summarize here, again, keeping it very simple, if you're raising venture capital, do a C Corp. If you're not, an LLC is 99.99% of the time going to be the best option. The other thing I'll add here, because people do ask this, is what if you're not sure? If you're not sure, I would still say go with an LLC. You can always convert to a Delaware C Corp in the future, or you can migrate it, or you can transform. You can turn your LLC into a C Corp. So you can always turn it into a C Corp, or you can start fresh. You can dissolve your LLC, and then you can start a fresh C Corp. So that's the answer there. The difference overall, though, is just the ability. The C Corp, you have to pay a corporate tax rate. It's easier to administer equity or shares. The LLC, it's a pass-through entity by default, meaning if you live in the U.S., you pay taxes on your personal income tax return. If you're a non-U.S. entity, depending on if you have effectively connected income or not, revenue and profits pass through, you then pay taxes in your home country. Disclaimer, I'm not a CPA or lawyer, but we've worked with over 10,000 businesses globally. So again, you can talk to our team, talk to our CPA, have a consultation. We're happy to answer that. So fantastic question here. Again, I'll just summarize if someone came in halfway through the answer. C Corp, venture capital, LLC. If not, you can always transfer to C Corp if you'd like. So I hope that actually just gave you a very solid answer, and you now know what to do, or you now know what to doula. I had to drop that in. Okay, another question that came in. Let me pull up this is a fantastic question. How long does the process take? How long does the process take? Now, there's a couple things to disentangle here. You're not actually just trying to start a company. The ultimate goal is actually to get that business bank account. That's the first ultimate goal. Obviously, you're trying to build a business. So getting an LLC, and I'll break down this process, getting an LLC typically takes, depending on the state, a few business days. So I would cushion 5 business days to say a week, but it could take 2 up to 2 weeks. But typically, it'll take a couple business days. That's just getting the LLC. You'll then get your articles of incorporation or your certificate of formation back. From there is when you then get your EIN, your employee identification number. Now you need the EIN because the EIN is going to help you get a business bank account. And to get your business bank account, you need that articles of incorporation and you need the EIN. You can't skip those steps. So this is where people get tied up. This is actually usually, for non-US founders, the biggest or the longest tent in the pole. That's an analogy I've heard people say, like, oh, the longest tent in the pole, meaning longest pole in the tent, meaning if you have a tent, what pole is the longest one, meaning it'll take the longest time? It's getting the EIN. Believe it or not, we're in the year 2025. Humanoid robots are coming. AI is here. Is a singularity here? Maybe it is here. We'll probably have flying cars soon, but the IRS in this day and age still requires you to fax or mail forms to them to get your EIN if you're a non-US founder. I know it's wild, but it's the truth. So the thing is, in terms of the overall process, if your goal is to get a US business bank account so you can get paid or set up your payment processor on Shopify or Stripe, you can't just take into account the time for the LLC. You need to take into account the time to get the EIN too. So for non-US founders, it can take 8 to 10 weeks to get the EIN. That is because it's dependent on the IRS. I haven't been to the IRS office, but there's a lot of people applying, and my understanding is there's these stacks of papers that they're stamping and then mailing back. So if you wanted your bank account today, the best time to start was not yesterday. It was actually 2 months ago, because then you're going to get the LLC that first week. You can then submit Form SS4 to get your EIN, and then you can apply for your business bank account. So if you're listening and saying, "Oh crap, I didn't realize that," you should start. And again, you should go through the process. I'm not saying anyone should start without feeling 100% comfortable. That's why you can do a demo, you can do your research. But the best time to start is actually 2 months ago, not yesterday. With many things, the sayings like, the best time to plant a tree was yesterday. It's actually 20 years ago. In this case here, the best time to start your LLC as a non-US founder is 2 months ago, because it could take up to 8 to 10 weeks. Now, could come faster, but I would still recommend starting earlier rather than later. Now, if you're a US founder, the good news is you can apply online with your social security number. So you can actually apply online. We can help do it. You can DIY it too if you're listening and want to do it on your own. You can apply online and actually get it immediately. And then you can use that to then apply for your business bank account. So overall, for US founders, the process is a bit faster. I'd say 1 to 2 weeks, depending on when you get your documents back from the state. And then that same day, actually, you can go to the IRS website and you can apply for EIN. As a non-US founder, it's going to take longer. 8 to 10 weeks. Again, we under-promise, over-deliver. Now, this question actually came up today. I was on a call with a partner, and he was mentioning, hey, the service is awesome. The product's awesome, but the EIN just takes too long to get. Now, here's the issue. You can go to Fiverr, and you can find someone who's going to say, as a non-US resident, I can get your EIN in less than 24 hours. And you know what you're going to say? Wait, that's awesome. I don't want to wait 8 to 10 weeks. Can I get my EIN much faster? So I want to pull this up here, and I want to show folks that you technically, and by technically, I'm just going to pull up exactly what the IRS says here. The IRS does not allow the use of a nominee to get an EIN. So if you give me 30 seconds here, I'm actually just going to pull up a tweet here. Nominee, IRS. Let me do one more check here. This is where I'm just doing a quick search on Twitter here. Okay, so for some reason now Twitter search doesn't want to search, so we're going to do this live here. IRS nominee EIN. And okay, here we go. So sorry, thanks for being with me there. Right here, this is the IRS website, employer identification number, and the responsible party is the person in charge of the entity and its assets. Nominees are not authorized to apply for an EIN. A nominee who applies for an EIN puts the entity's information and privacy at risk. So here, you can see right here, a nominee is someone you give limited authority to act for your entity during its formation. The nominee has little or no control over the entity's assets. Nominees can't apply for an EIN and shouldn't be listed on Form SS4. If you haven't identified a responsible party and use a nominee, you must identify the responsible party before you apply. If you list a nominee, you must correct the information and identify your responsible party. So I share that because you can find, and there will be people online who say I can get it in 24 hours. I'm showing you the Carfax right here. The IRS does not allow this. The IRS says you cannot use a nominee. So look, technically, I guess you could still use Fiverr and take that risk, but I think it's an example of asymmetric downside. If the IRS is saying don't do it, don't do it. Um, Again, you have to wait a little longer, but I wouldn't want to take the asymmetric downside risk with the business. Whether it's the IRS or someone else saying, hey, you didn't do this process properly. So I just want to share that information. You'll find people who say you can go check out Fiverr. I can get your EIN in 24 hours. Technically, what they're doing is acting as your nominee, using their social or someone else's social to get it. So I just wanted to call that out here. Okay, we had a couple comments here. Thank you, Diffused Agency. Found your channel, wishing you well. Really appreciate the support. Comment any questions, happy to answer. Looking forward to seeing the setup/prod process in your next vlog. Appreciate it too. We got more content coming. We got a question here from Dimitro. Wise plus Stripe plus Shopify for ecom seems to be the best. I've heard that stack too. The stack I've heard is obviously doola for your LLC. Get your EIN. Wise is popular. Another bank that's popular is Mercury. Another bank is Slash. There's a couple of banks that are actually quite popular. A lot of these banks actually allow you to apply for a bank account from outside the US too. You can then get Shopify payment set up, or you can get Stripe and then connect it to Shopify too. Now there's a question here. Can you get a bank account without an EIN? For a business bank account, you'll need an EIN. So if you're just a sole prop in the US, you can get one, or in your home country. Again, it depends on the country, but you need an EIN to get a business bank account. Okay, let me just check through. We're approaching the top of the hour here. So I'm gonna just hit as many of these as I can because I appreciate people live in the chat. So Olagoke, there's an issue with my EIN. That's a mistake with the name. This is so unfortunate, but I'll tell you this. The IRS actually makes typos because, again, they're not using AI or automation as much as they should yet. So sometimes they'll actually make a typo. So whether you're a doula customer or not, sometimes the IRS can actually make typos. If you worked with doula or if you didn't work with doula, you can schedule a demo or contact the team. You can scan the QR code, and we're happy to help see if we can get a new EIN for you or a new EIN letter. Question here. So yeah, Olagoki, please message in. We're happy to see if we can fix that typo with the IRS. Second question here was around, as a Nigerian with a US LLC, which US business bank account can I open? What I would do is always check the bank itself, and on the bank, you can check if they restrict certain countries or not. So I'll give you an example here. This is a bank called Mercury, and you can actually go to their website, and I would advise doing this with any company. You can see their prohibited countries. So in this case here, I'll make this a little bigger so everyone can see. Prohibited countries for Mercury. I'll just do a Command F, Nigeria. Okay, so in this case, we cannot open accounts for founders living in Nigeria. So Mercury cannot support founders in Nigeria. What I would say is you can check other banks. Off the top of my head, this is where I want to check. I would recommend checking out Wise or Payoneer. Those could be two options. But again, just as general guidance for anyone, do a search on the bank. You can do bank name, prohibited countries. You can chat with their support team to see if they support your country or not. So great question there. Let's see. I'm going to go through a couple of questions here. Why should I choose doula? Please give discount. Okay, Miku, feeling nice here. So if you schedule a demo with doula, you can scan the QR code. You can talk to our team and we can get an understanding of your business situation, and there might be a seasonal promotion or discount going on. But overall, in terms of why choose doula, I talked about this earlier. We don't want to just start a company and give you a checklist of things to do, making you feel like you've been thrown to the wolves. The back-end services you'll need, bookkeeping and taxes, are done in-house. We don't outsource it to. So the goal is, hey, it's not just a formation. It's not just bookkeeping and taxes. It's business in a box. So please, I encourage anyone, you can schedule a demo. They're completely free. No catches there. We have a great question from Remo. Does doula offer physical business addresses or are all addresses virtual? We do not offer physical business addresses in-house, but if you contact our team, we have a partner that can actually help get a physical business address in the US. So we don't do that in-house capability. We have a partner we can refer to. They're called Virtual Post Mail. Just contact our team. We're happy to send you a link. We have a relationship with them. And last thing here, this is a great question. We get asked a lot of questions. Louise asked a question, is doula facing any issues with the recent changes in U.S. immigration laws when helping international founders start their businesses? We cannot answer immigration questions because we are not immigration experts. That being said, we are working on partnering more closely with immigration advisors and companies so that we can pass along these questions. So, Louise, I am curious if there's a specific law, but we typically, when we get these questions, we can't answer because we don't want to give the wrong answer, slash we don't know the answers to. So, not trying to do a non-answer there, but ultimately we're not experts in that. We're the experts when it comes to formation, the bookkeeping, and the tax. So, really great question there. If other folks do know, I guess please chime in or comment here. But Louise, you can, again, feel free to schedule a demo if you have a specific question, or if anyone wants, they can email hello@doola.com. Okay, and with that, that was a wrap on the very first, well, not the very first, but the live weekly Tuesday Q&A. We'll be back. We'll be back on Tuesdays. And the last thing I'll just add for folks is anyone today, if you want to just learn more, maybe you have a business, maybe you don't. I have a newsletter. It's called 2-Minute Business Hacks, where I write down. I love hacks. So life hacks, business hacks, but these are business hacks specifically. These are hacks which you can implement in less than 2 minutes. I share one every single week. You can scan this code. You can also just head to doola.com/my name and you can sign up for this newsletter. I know you get a ton of email spam, so the goal is to drop value every week here. And then if anyone here also has a question, whether you're looking to start or level up your business, you can also schedule a demo with Doola. Okay, that is a wrap. Again, I'm going to pop this QR code on the screen. Once again here, this is where you can scan to get a 2-minute business hack in your newsletter every single week. On my socials too, you can click the link in bio and you can download from here. And then anyone here, if you'd like to just talk to someone, an actual human on the team, again, I promise you they're not AI avatars yet. I'm kidding. That was a joke. We don't really want to do that. We want you to be able to talk to someone. You can actually schedule a demo and talk to someone. So with that, thank you everyone for tuning in today. Keep the questions coming. These were awesome questions. We're going to have a nice backlog for next week, and we'll LLC